Okay.
All right. Okay, everybody, we're in for a treat today. I am thrilled to have John Mark on the Flower Podcast. Welcome, John Mark.
Well, thanks for having me.
Well, it's always fun to watch you on Instagram, and I have followed you for quite a while, and you do so many things. Um, I'm just kind of curious, how did everything start for you in the world of flowers?
Yeah. So it started out real small, like everything does. It started out in high school. I had three little businesses. I hustled a lot. But anyways, I just briefly will go through them. But I sold fire extinguishers door to door. I had a t-shirt business and we did like heat press on t-shirts and sold them at like craft fairs and like tractor pulls and things like that around here. And then I was the candy man in high school. I know that's probably not it's probably looked down upon nowadays, but then it really didn't matter. You could sell candy out of your backpack locker, whatever. And so I did that, and then I loved to be creative, and so I started making these door arrangements, and so that's kind of what has blossomed into like where it is today. But it just started out with these door wreaths and like baskets and things like that, and I would sell them at fairs on the weekends and set up wherever whoever would let me come set up and show what I've got. And then it kind of turned into like I started selling them to different gift shops around town, and then I started doing displays for people in their shops, and all through high school and college, it paid my way through college, and then
Really?
one yes. It started out in high school. It started out to just make money for a car, and I knew I didn't want to like, you know, didn't want to have to be tied down to like a job, but now I'm like tied down for life to this. But I love what I do, so it's not like working. But yeah, so it started out in high school just making door arrangements, and then one thing led to another, and then we started doing how I started doing houses at Christmas time, which is a huge part of the business and where it's kind of grown today. And one of my Christmas clients asked me if I would do their daughter's wedding, and I said, sure, I'll do it. I don't know a thing about flowers. I don't even know what a hydrangea is, but if you're good with me doing it, I'll come do it for you and we'll just work through it together. So that was kind of how the wedding side started too. And then, word of mouth is everything. So it just grows a little bit each day, I say.
So you're located in Germantown, and I don't know the Memphis area. So are you close to downtown, or is that like a suburb?
Yeah, so we're suburbs. So we're probably about 25-30 minutes from the heart of downtown.
Okay. And I am really surprised that everything you did then was all with like artificial or dried, or, when you're doing all these wreaths or doors or decorating for Christmas.
Yes, yeah. So anything outside, unless it's like a wedding or event or someone specifically asks us for fresh, it's always faux. So my career started out in the faux world, like using faux stems and ribbons and like all of that kind of material wise. So I didn't really do much in the fresh other than like with my grandmother on the weekends, we would play in the garden and do the church flowers and things like that. But that's really the only time I was around fresh flowers kind of growing up and getting into two things.
So after doing that wedding, which was all fresh, I'm assuming, or maybe you mixed
Yeah.
in some faux, but it was mostly fresh, and you decided to take the leap into doing more fresh. I mean, that's kind of I mean, it's like two different worlds.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of curious how that that took some guts to just, I mean, Foe's so forgiving, right? I mean, it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you can bend it, you can, throw 10 wreaths on top of each other, like to haul it somewhere and then
It can be
fluff it out.
110 degrees.
Yes. So that is one good thing. But yeah, I mean, the weddings, they just kind of came about. And I'm just very much of like, I'll try it out. And if it works, great. If it doesn't work, that's okay too. Like just trial and error. And that's just kind of how it happened. Someone, asked me to do their daughter's wedding. I was like, if you're good, I'm good. Like we're gonna do this together type thing. And then like, someone at that wedding was like, he did a fine job. Let's see if he'll do our wedding. So, and I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. Sure, why not? So that's kind of how it started. And I just am not, I guess you could say I'm just not as scared to jump into some things than others, maybe, or maybe I'm real stupid. I don't know. Just to do it. But I do love doing it because it's still a creative outlet that you get to do in every wedding. Even though some of them look similar, they're always different in some way.
Sure. So then, at what point did you decide to open a store?
So it took a while for me to open a store up because I had worked in so many gift shops doing like their displays and like merchandising for them. And I had about 7 in the Memphis metro area, and I would just hit them monthly or weekly, however many times they wanted me to come. And so I saw a lot of like ins and out of how different gift shops ran, and like what worked for some and what worked for others. And so I just waited on that whole thing for a while. So I got through with college, and then after college, it was like that point in time where I was like, I kind of need to like do this for real, or am I not going to do it? And so that was kind of the point where I was like, okay, let's look for a place that would work for a gift shop. And I'm real conscious on budget all the time. I'm just a hustler, so I'm always like, this is our last dollar. Like I treat every dollar, even if we whatever, it doesn't matter what it is. I'm always like, this is our last dollar. Like we can't be doing all this nonsense. So it took me a while to finally like get the courage to just like put the money up for a gift shop. And I'm real like crazy about like, I know other people like take out loans and stuff, but it's always just been self-funded. So it just started with a little bit, and then we grew, and now I mean that's just how I am. Is so the gift shop part, finding a gift shop and diving into it was a big step for me because it's a lot of cash up front, and but we did it, and that was kind of the breaking point. I also lived at home until I was 28, just because it's the same thing. I wasn't going to move out until I knew 100% that I'd be set for for my life or whatever. So I just is how I am. But so I don't know if that answered that question, but the gift shop came after college and after I realized that okay, I actually can afford to open a store.
Well, I don't know how old you are now, but so we were
I'm
probably so the
I'm
shop is
30.
you're 30, so you've had the shop going now for
Since 2018 was my first official shop. So before 2018, and all through, I opened my first booth up. So like down here in the South, but I'm sure they're all over the country. But there's different stores that are like antique malls and things like that. So I had booths in a few stores around town, and then a lot of these gift shops and retail places I was helping do their displays and things and merchandise for them. They'd also let me sell my items in their store that I made, so like my wreaths or whatever. And I used to do like other stuff too, like painted furniture and all of that. Um, so even before I opened the store up, I literally had some spots all around the Memphis metro area that I sold. And so when I opened my store up, I just kind of looked at those and said, which spot makes the most money and produces the
mm,
most? And Germantown, I had a store in Germantown, Diane's Gift Emporium, and her store was the highest producing store for me. So that's how I came to the terms or whatever, that I said, okay, well, when I can afford it, I need to open up a place in Germantown. That's going to be my ideal location spot
what a,
for retail.
right. I mean, what a great way to get market research is you're testing all these different places.
And you're
Um,
making money while you can do that too. Ideally, that's what. So you don't have to like waste a bunch of money on just paying someone to do it. You can just do it yourself if you're hustling and make money at the same time.
so you've been hustling for quite a while.
Yeah, I always say I love a hustle. When I talk to kids at like these entrepreneurship programs and stuff like in schools and stuff, I'm always like, you don't have to you don't have to think huge starting out. You just have to think small, and you got to grow into it. Everyone's like, get a loan, do this, do that. You don't have to. I mean, I know it's an easy way too, and it may work out in your favor, but also it could be a whole lot stressful too to know that you have all this overhead hanging over you. So it's just something how I work. I know everyone's different, but that's kind of how I started, and that's how I try to run the business today, even.
Well, I mean, one of the things I think of when I see your shop or images of your shop, I think, gosh, there is so much inventory in there. And the fact that you grew to this level without loans is very impressive, actually. And I know that had to be challenging. And so I guess I have two questions. One, how did that person feel when you opened your shop, since you were putting your stuff in their shop, and now you're opening, you're like kind of like
Yeah.
took that away from them, I guess.
Right. So, I mean, I always say all's fair in love, war, and gift shops. But honestly, I have a great relationship with, especially Diane, who was in Germantown. I have a great relationship with most all of my former businesses, and a lot of them aren't even around today, even.
Sure.
But just because like people retire, things like that, people get tired of it, all of that. But uh, so before I opened my store up in Germantown, I closed all my locations everywhere, all my booth locations. So I put all my eggs in one basket in my retail shop in Germantown.
Okay. So then it wasn't like a big surprise that something was up and
No, no,
okay.
no, no. And I told people I'm very like, it's like, here's the deal, and hopefully people like, and I'm the same. I'm like this is like, like if a designer works for me or anyone like that, I'm always like, if you can grow yourself somewhere else and achieve your next level, your next dream, whatever, you've got to go for it. So, and hopefully people will understand that, but not everyone in life will always understand that. They'll just want to take from you. And that's just something you just got to work through. It's hard on both ends. It hurts your feelings. It probably hurts their feelings. But if they don't want to see you succeed, then just move on and break that tie. But most people want to see other people succeed. At least I think they do. I give people the benefit of the doubt, but there's always some people who probably don't, but whatever.
Well, I think that's good because I think a lot of times people are afraid of stepping out and doing things just because, they don't, I don't know, they're afraid of that confrontation, or they're afraid of, hurting people, or they're afraid of getting doors slammed in their face. And
Sure.
yeah,
And I
that's,
will say this: I always say competition is very healthy for a community. It's good to have multiple people doing something. If there wasn't, it would be no fun, and the creativity would not be there. Because that competition is what keeps everyone going. I feel like, to do the next thing or this or that. So I think it's healthy all the way around.
well, that's a great attitude. I know a lot of people don't have that attitude when it comes to competition. It gets a little cutthroat out there sometimes.
Yeah, it can be. It's however you look at it, but yeah, yeah.
So you said you do, so Christmas is a big part of what you do. Weddings is a big part of what you do. Um, the shop now is obviously a big part of what you do. Out of all those segments, have I forgotten anything or have I missed anything?
No, we do events and then retail and then the weddings. Yeah. Oh, I mean the Christmas. Christmas is a big,
So how
yeah.
much Christmas, like what percentage of your annual business do you think it makes up Christmas?
Have 50% probably.
Really?
Hmm. It's what I started with. It's what I've kind of known. I mean, it's what I love. It's probably what I'm most passionate about. I mean, I love the weddings. Um, I love being creative in the store and doing the displays and things, but Christmas is just like a whole nother level. Like I don't know, I just love it.
Well, to me, the one thing with Christmas that's always so challenging is you have only everybody wants it done at the same time, right? Or within like a 2 week window. Um,
Yeah.
and how do you
Yeah.
get all of that done in such a short period of time?
So, I mean, we start our last year. We started our Christmas in mid-October. We started our installs. So it's just
Really?
people who, not everyone. Obviously, we weren't doing like the outside, but it really everyone wants around that Thanksgiving window. The week before or the week after, and so we just kind of schedule people in, and then it just kind of expands outward. So like it's like, okay, well, here's our dates available. If you want us, like, here's what we can do, that kind of thing. But most people, a lot of people, obviously, if they're spending a lot of money to decorate, a lot of them don't mind it being up early to enjoy it, all of that. And then also, really, holiday Christmas parties start in November,
Mm.
for a lot of people. So, and also we do a good way of like, it's okay if you like mix in the turkey with the Christmas tree. Like you can have a turkey in one room with like a fall display, and you can still do the Christmas tree and the garlands in another room. It's just like the Macy's Day Parade. It's all Thanksgiving, and then Santa comes out. Like you
True.
can mix it. You can mix it. I think it's okay. At least I do. But
So are most of your clients sort of grandfathered in when it comes to their slots and the
yeah, so I tell people, like, new customers who want us. I mean, we're expanding our team, year by year. Like people who work with me each year, like they're able to like kind of take on some more for us, things like that. But people who are like me, who want like me and all, I tell people, almost someone has to move away or they gotta die to get in. Like we're kind of just, everyone has like, it's just like reoccurring event. It's like the same. I'm almost like, I feel like part of their family, because I'm like there at every Christmas at the same time, just about between sometime in November to mid-December. And people really kind of keep their slot forever until they move away or whatever. That's really the only time we lose them. But
that's interesting. And and since so much of Christmas ends up being around faux, you can probably start producing things early, can't you? Like even now. I mean, I don't know. It's
yeah,
August here, so I'm not sure.
yeah. No, we've started Christmas like produce, because we sell so much of it in the store. And honest, I mean, we sell like just stems, picks, regular merchandise, but our biggest seller is anything that, like, I'd say that we've touched or that we've made. So like wreaths, door arrangements, table arrangements, garlands. I mean, just adding a bow to this or that, it's just, that's just what people want. They want that extra little special designery touch that you just can't find at every, like big box stores or whatever. So that's really our bulk of our sales, or anything that we touch. So the more stuff that we can embellish or add to or make, the better we'll be in the season, if we can get it done ahead of time.
So, okay, I when I first entered the floral business, I entered it through wholesale, and some of my clients were in the area of Macon, Georgia. And Macon, Georgia is not
Okay.
a super big town, but they have their cherry festival, which is a big deal. And that was really kind of my first interaction with people embellishing. Basically they put a cherry blossom on everything, right? Your mailbox, your
Right.
door, your car, your office. And then when I see what you do, and it's kind of like, I don't know. When I moved to Atlanta, I didn't see a lot of this kind of dynamic between community and shop, and this, the embellishment. I mean, the door decorate, all of this, and I'm like, do you think that's just indicative of the area that you guys are located in, or is it the way you market it?
Yeah, I think it's a few things. I think it definitely has to do with living down in the South. I think it's more of a Southern thing to like embellish stuff, do that extra touch, like we go overboard even with like drapery and like decorating, we want layer after layer after layer. At least I'm just speaking for the South. I know the whole South doesn't want that, but we like to put our wallpaper up and then you know, do a gallery wall and then maybe add something else into that, like a gold trim or something. So it's the same way when it comes to Christmas and decorating for me, and I think for my clients, it's more is more. And I do think that just not as many people do what like we do and what some other shops do around town. And so it becomes like special And so people who see it from afar who don't have access to like us, because if you're not local, we can't really help you because the
Right.
stuff doesn't ship well, all that, because it's made, it's big, and so I think it becomes like this special thing, and so it almost like a frenzy, and people are like, actually, I do like that. That's really pretty, and they can appreciate it, from. But I don't know. It's just I think it's a mix of things. I think it's being down here in the South, and I also think that it's just that people just don't have access to it all over the country because not as many people do it. I think that if more people did it in different areas, that it would become like a regular thing, to decorate overboard like that. I don't know if that was your question.
Yeah, no, but I think it is, and I think too, it's kind of like this dynamic of making homes feel. And this probably seems oversimplified, but it just makes homes feel more warm and more homey
Mhm.
and more,
Yeah.
I mean, when you pull, especially you drive down the road and you see a mailbox or you see the front door, and then I think I even saw you sharing things that your aunt paints, or
Yes.
I'm like, and they're so cool, and I'm like, I mean, it's, I guess John Mark Enterprises is just a family affair.
It can be. Yeah, it surely can be. And it is. I mean, my parents help me every day with it. I mean, everyone's involved. So,
That's fun. That's fun. So then, how did the whole flower, going back to like for the fresh aspect of it, how did that? Okay, so you opened your doors. Did you open your doors doing fresh right away, or was that something you transitioned into? Because I mean, you do a
yeah.
lot of fresh now. I mean, relatively speaking.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So we had the events going before I opened the store up. I was doing weddings and parties and things like that. So, but all that takes place at our warehouse. I have a warehouse location.
Oh,
Um, and so the store literally just had, when I opened it, just had like one of those like sliding cooler door, things. And so we just had grab and goes only. And we still to this day we have standing orders that go out weekly. But other than that, we don't really do daily deliveries or anything like that. Like you can pick up
oh,
in the store or you can come to the store. But we now have a walk-in cooler at our store, which is nice. And we keep it stocked with flowers, and we actually, there's a local bakery in town that 17 Berkshire, that keeps like cakes and metaphors and things like that in it too, because flowers and cakes go hand in hand, I think, when you're coming by to pick up like an anniversary gift or like a going to a party or something. But yeah, so in the retail side, we really, I mean, the flowers are a part of it, but they're not everything. Like it's not only flowers. It's really just kind of like a smaller section of the store dedicated to fresh flowers. And then I just market doing bigger events or weddings, ideally, for like the fresh. And that's where we produce all that at the warehouse.
so if somebody calls in and says that they want something delivered, you say, sorry, you just got it's grab we have
Yeah,
plenty for you to pick from here.
we tell them that, and then we refer them to a local florist that does deliveries. There's a
Oh,
few
okay.
around us, and so we'll just send them to there. Because a lot of people, obviously don't have the time to drive up or come in, or some of them are out of town and they just want to send someone
Right.
to the hospital or whatever. But we just don't. That's just not a part of the business I want to be a part of. So maybe one day, but right now I don't. I don't want to do the daily deliveries.
I think that's great though. I mean, a lot of times that is such a, you know, opportunity for disaster because either you get the wrong addresses or people aren't home or they're not at work or and you're
Yeah.
always and you have all the extra overhead and guess what? If they have to come to your store to pick up the flowers, they might see one or two other things while they're there, right?
Oh yes. Oh yes. Yes. There's always that chance for an add-on sale, which is, and I'm in the business of retail, so that's what we do. We always try to, well, we don't want to push anything on anyone, but we are there for retail, so we always suggest extra things or whatever.
Right, sure. Well, one of the things that just really impressed me when we were starting our conversation was you talking about how you did all of this sort of, well, I'm assuming you're debt free when you started and and navigating that. I mean, a lot of these things are kind of expensive. So do people when you're doing these big installations or you're doing Christmas or what you're doing, I mean, do people pay you up front or did you just, put it on a credit card and then, they pay when you're done, or how did all that work? Because that's cash flow is so difficult starting out.
Yeah. So, so I started in, remember I started in high school hustling, and I mean, if I had to go to school, which, and I did college and all, but that's a different conversation, because I don't think college is for everyone. But because some of us have talents and things that we can just dive into it. But anyway, so I started in high school, and I was like, if I have to go to school, I'm gonna do something that I feel like is productive. So that's why I started selling candy and gum and all that. So before you like jump into anything, you just have to start small, and then you can get you a nest egg up that will fund the next thing. And that's just kind of how I like to do things. So I wasn't so like, and I'm very trustworthy of people. So to get back to your question, so I would kind of front a lot of stuff up front for people, and then starting out, and then they would just pay me after I was done. But I soon changed all that, and we've been doing it way differently for a while now. But now basically everything is due 2 weeks before anything, like before your event, before we come to Christmas, like whatever it is. So all monies are paid then. 14 days out is typical with us. Now I get some people add things on and all that, and then we bill them later. But for the most part, it's all done ahead of time. But sometimes people don't always like starting out. You may have to prove yourself first before they pay you or whatever. Or yeah, or sometimes it's even an awkward conversation to have with someone to try to
Hmm.
get your money beforehand if they don't really like, if you're not like legitimized yet, not saying that you won't do it or you wouldn't do it. But so some people have to like, you have to have, it's a two-way street with trust. I feel like starting out, and you gain people's trust a lot of times if you're like, at least I have realized this, at least with my clientele, if you're like, oh no, we'll worry about it after I'm done and make sure that you love it all and everything's squared away, and then you can pay me then. So like they don't feel like, oh my goodness, what if I don't like it and he's already got all my money and he's not going to come back to fix whatever it is that, whatever it could be. So starting out, that's kind of how I did it. I just let my work show for itself, and then they were more than happy to pay, obviously.
Well, too, I think you can. Another option is just to take deposits. Like you could
Yeah,
say,
deposits. Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, we now we do all of that. Like, in so I mean, I'm just, you asked me how I started. I mean, that's
yeah.
what I did before I started. But now, like, you have to pay a deposit, and then everything is due before the event even happens. So
John Mark, one of the things I think about, all these things that you developed and you grew through and you learned along the way. Sometimes I think one of the hardest things to learn is the world of employees and growing through that. And so I'm kind of curious, how did you tackle and approach that as you grew? I mean, did you use a lot of like freelancers or did you have full time? How'd you navigate that?
yeah, it's just same idea. Just start small. So uh I didn't have my first full time employee until I opened my store up, and then that's when I got full time employees, and they were really, it was people who could do multiple things. It was like someone who could design and run a cash register and go help me set up an event. Like it was like that's just kind of how it started out. It was people who were willing to do everything and anything. But before that, I just would hire weekend labor. Like I would produce it all during the week myself. And this was, starting out, I wasn't nearly where I am today,
Sure.
in the event world and stuff. So my events weren't like crazy, like they kind of can be some today. So it would just be me producing throughout the week, and then I would just need like Friday, Saturday help or whatever. So and then I would just hire people on the weekends. And then if it would, as the events grew, then I started like I'd hire in just freelance designers. There's some in Memphis that we can pull from, that's all they do. They um go to different florists and all that. And so that's kind of where it started. But like even like to this year, we haven't had one freelance designer come in and help us. We're all in-house, which is so nice.
Mm.
But starting out, you can't always pay that payroll to keep people on the payroll, full
Right.
time. You have to have freelancers instead until you can get to the point where you can have full time people and you like, okay, look, this is your sole job. Like now we're to the point where it's like, I mean, yeah, I will ask people to do multiple things, but we're really to the point where it's like, okay, all you have to do is worry about fresh flowers. And then like all you have to do is worry about the warehouse and the boxes coming in and stuff. And so it's there's a lot of moving parts, but now we have a lot of people in place that like that's their sole job. It's just to, there's someone who just runs the store, and someone who just, you know, it's everything. So,
Interesting.
but yeah.
Um, I know earlier I had asked something about your aunt or you mentioned your parents. What's it like having them work for you? Is that an interesting dynamic?
Yeah.
Usually it starts where the parents start the business and the kids grow up in this business, but
Right, right.
you've kind of flipped that a little bit.
Yeah. So my mom's a pharmacist and my dad is an insurance salesman. Um, and they so it's really a blessing to have them involved in my day to day because they're super smart. My dad's done different businesses and things like that, and so they're like my CEOs, or they're on my board of directors, whatever you want to call it. So I always am like, when I talk to kids and stuff, I'm like, you got to have a board of directors, and who that may be, I don't know, but then I tell them like my board of directors start with my parents and then it trickles down from there. So like, yeah, sometimes like are there blow up moments? Sure, upper management gets, butts heads, whatever. But at the end of the day, I can be like, here's where I'm at. I'm in this rut. What can I do what is your idea or suggestion to get me out of this rut or whatever? And they always have the best advice. And so no one, like, at least for me, my family is never going to lead me in the wrong direction. They're always going to do what they think is best for me. So you've got to have that core support from somewhere that's like, you can tell them literally anything and they're not going to be like, oh no, you've lost it all. They're going to be like, oh no, here's what we can do, or here's how it's going to, let's try this or whatever that is. You got to have that support somewhere behind you because you can't do it all on your own. And now I have a lot of like great employees. I even hate to use the term employees. I like to use coworkers or whatever because they're really friends. And I mean, it's just like one big happy family. Usually, sometimes it's not so happy, but usually it's a big happy family up here. But even like my other coworkers now, I can throw ideas off and bounce things and you know, just let them in on what's going on and here's what we need to do and what do y'all think. But my family being a part of it has been a huge blessing. So
I'm curious. That's that is a tremendous blessing to have that kind of relationship. Do you mind sharing kind of a specific example of something that you were kind of stuck with and they helped you with, or you found your way? I don't know. I just sometimes people I don't know, they just don't always envision what what's
yeah,
tough for John Mark at one point.
right. So so I'm only human and I have anxiety. I'm sure it's because of the business and all, but if it wasn't for the business, probably have to get anxious about other things. So my parents really helped me a lot with that aspect because I'll think it's the end of the world, let's shut it down, but I'm just closing, like whatever, and they'll be like, no, look, here's where you're at, here's where you could be, but here's where you're projected to be, or whatever. It may be something like that. My dad, he's real number savvy and all the things. So my mom helps me kind of like emotionally, and all. And my dad
Sure.
would too, but I just tend to go towards my mom when there's like maybe there's like an employee issue because I'm real relationship based. I love like everyone, and I don't always want to hurt someone's feelings or like I don't always know how to say I actually didn't like what you did. And here's what I would like you to do. I don't really know. Sometimes I'm not always the best at articulating how that comes across, because sometimes I can be like, I feel like sometimes I can like not really get it across. And then I'm afraid that I've hurt their feelings in some way. So mom's good about like softening the blow per se, because I'm not necessarily mad at the coworker or whatever. I'm just like, I would like it done a different way or something different. So, but I've gotten better at that. But mom's helped me kind of through that because she's just so soft and meek and mild and sweet. But on the flip side of things, my dad is a great numbers guy, all of that. So if I think like, oh my goodness, I just spent, a couple $100,000 on Christmas. Was that okay to do? Like, why did I do that? Da, 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 da. And he'll be like, chill out. It's fine. You've got it. It's going to be okay. And you're going to make it back. So I don't know if that's like a good example, but just things like that. I also have a few rental properties that I've obtained through this business. And so that helps me manage all of that, so I don't even have to like think of that or do anything. He just handles it all for me. So I have about like 20 different units or whatever, and they're all commercial. Like there's like a pharmacist and a dentist office and some contractors, a coffee shop, stuff
Good
like that. But
grief.
anytime like the air goes out or whatever, he handles all that for me. So it's just kind of like that kind of stuff. They just take a lot of the stressors off of me, so that I don't have as many anxious thoughts, I should say.
Well, I mean, that's a lot to juggle and a lot to manage, and I think it's an incredible testament to what you have worked so hard for and have done. And I think that's awesome. I mean, that really is cool. Um,
So
go ahead.
every day it's something, and every day I talk to, there's something that comes up and we have to interact in some way, which I think is wonderful. So it keeps us all together, really.
Right. Well, and two, I think it's funny that you mentioned anxiety because I think, a lot of people deal with that. And it's
Mhm.
interesting because I feel like creative people, especially, a lot of times they end up going down a rabbit trail and they lose a little bit of perspective. And it's nice to have those people around you that can help give you that perspective. And you're like, okay, this is not as bad as I think it is right now, or it's not as,
Right.
it's grounding. Maybe that's the word.
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. So I mean, it's just part of it. Sometimes I feel like, especially in the event world, because we're on a tight schedule and high expectations and high emotions, all the things. So I think it just kind of comes with it. But
Yeah.
yeah,
So with weddings and events, that part of your business, um, I again feel like it's probably a lot of word of mouth. I feel like you do big events. I feel, it seems like you're doing things and you're known for that. Do you work a lot with not event planners, but with
yeah,
yeah, wedding planners? Or is it
yeah,
that because of your reputation, people want to work with you directly, or how do you do that?
yeah. Um, So I love an event planner or wedding planner to be involved in it, because we just want to focus on like the florals or some kind of cool design or display. And what a lot of times is when planners are not involved, we kind of end up, suggesting like tablecloth colors and all that stuff, but we don't really do rentals or anything. So I will say that I'll preface all this with saying I love to work with alongside a event planner or coordinator, but I think people come to us just, it's definitely word of mouth. I think a few planners in town like to work with us. I hope they do. I like to work with them. So I think maybe they recommend us, too, when like the client comes to them and it's like, okay, here's just handle it all for me. There's a lot of clients who probably do that too. And so we get business through wedding planners or event planners as well. And then I think just like people just seeing what we do and like, their friend got married and, we did their wedding or they were in a wedding or attended a wedding and the flowers, took their breath away. So they're like, you've got to do mine. I think there's a lot of that too that goes on. which we're honored, either way, however they find us or come to us, we love to do it for them.
So, what do you think is your biggest marketing tool? Like, I mean, obviously, you just talked about your wedding planners that are promoting you. You feel, I'm just curious, do you advertise or do you need to advertise, or because of the size town you're in, it's all word of mouth?
Yeah, it word of mouth is the best advertisement. I've always said that because it's free and no one, you can like run an ad in a magazine or, do a sponsored ad on social media or whatever. But if they don't like know you or there's not a connection there, you know, they may or may not check you out. But it's like when people are like, "Oh yeah, John Mark, he da 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 da," and they're like, "Oh well, if so and so says he's okay, then he's probably okay. So let's go see what he's up, what he's got
Sure.
going on." So that's kind of how the whole thing has been. I've not spent hardly any money. I'm not big on spending money to begin with, but I have not spent hardly any money on advertisement, formal advertising, or anything like that. So I just focus on social media, and then we just focus on every customer, every client, every bride, whatever, having that really nice experience with us, and just you know being able to say, "Oh, he took it above and beyond what I thought," or like, you know, I walked in the store and everyone was so nice, and I'm going to go back there to find something else later, or whatever. So that's really like our advertising is in our work. I feel like how we do things and what we produce.
Yeah, I think that's so true. And I think a lot of times people lose sight of that and in those relationships that you can build along the way. So I appreciate you saying that. I, the other thing I noticed was, how often do you flip your store?
Okay, so I'm psycho about that. I want it to change in some way once a week. So we change it in some way. I mean, we don't do a massive flip by any means, but there might be like, a table or two change or whatever, like furniture come in and some go out. Um, so it changes once a week in some capacity. But we do massive flips with the seasons. So at least 4 times a year, where like the whole entire store transforms into something that you've not seen before or whatever. And usually it's a little bit more than four a year, but there's four big ones, obviously. So it kind of changes. It's spring, summer, uh, fall, and winter or Christmas.
Because with Christmas, you kind of feel like I noticed you just did a big flip for fall,
Mhm.
and there was all this fall decor. But then at some point, Christmas has to creep in there. Do you
Yeah.
do you let it just creep in, or do you then flip it all for Christmas? Like, I don't know,
Yeah.
Thanksgiving or
So this year is going to be different because we're in our newly renovated store and all. So we've not done a Christmas in here before, and we've never done a fall either. So it's kind of crazy because, so long story short, I guess to answer the question is, yeah, it will just kind of creep in, but by October 6th, that weekend is like our open house or Christmas kickoff. So I mean, it would be pretty full of Christmas, but we'll still keep fall out, as long as it's selling and all of that. But we're on product we have sold a lot of fall already, so we won't have that much even by that time if
mm,
we keep on the track that we're going, in which I hope we do. We won't be like once Christmas is ready to, once we reset the store for Christmas, there won't be much fall left at all anyways. So, but we're hoping there'll be a little section left that we can leave up through Thanksgiving, because some people are very, hardcore, like they're not going to decorate until Thanksgiving, which is
right?
great. And last year we were able to keep, so last year it's kind of crazy how we did stuff, but we had like three separate stores because I kept taking on like, so like a neighbor would move out and I'd be like, okay, we need that space. And then another neighbor. So like where our store is now, there was like three separate
Oh,
entrances or
okay.
three separate units there. And so last year we had all 3 units, but no walls were knocked down or anything because we didn't do our renovations until January. So we had literally one whole store was all Christmas, and was all Thanksgiving, fall, whatever, harvest, and the last 2 were Christmas. So it was kind of nice because we were able to, like, it was a good cutoff point. But this year will be, I think it will be fabulous, but it'll be a little bit different on how we maneuver that. So,
Wow, how long did it take you to renovate? I mean, to make all that into one big store?
so it took us the contractor was very quick with it all, and it was amazing. So we closed like the second week well, actually we never had to close, but we closed down some of the 2 farthest units in January, and then we were able to reopen in February, but so it really was like a month and a half or less in
Wow.
renovating. It was really amazing how quickly they were able to handle it all.
Wow. Um, you having done everything you've done, I'm curious, what have been some of the biggest challenges that you've had to overcome?
So, okay, so challenges are things that are out of your control that you have no way of, you can't control them. So, like a reefer breaking on the day of the wet, that's full of flowers,
Sure.
so like that's a huge thing that has happened before. Flowers, so we air freight all of our flowers in for the most part, and then we try to use local. We have 2 local wholesale houses here, and we try to use them as much as possible because I want them to stay in business and stick around, so we use them too. And sometimes I'll just literally split my wholesale bill in half. Like I'll do half air freight because it's obviously cheaper to air freight it in from like Miami or direct from the farms in South America or in Holland or wherever. But I still want to give enough business to the local people too, so that we don't have to. So it's like a catch-22 thing. But the air freight, I will say, local, it comes in by truck to them, and they're usually like it's usually always spot on. The air freight, you never know. So like the week before last, we had this big party event, and I needed hot pink hydrangeas, and I thought I had them on order. Everything was good. Well, they come in, and whoever packaged them, we ordered 600 stems, and whoever
Wow.
packaged them, I don't know what it was, like their first day, I guess, or something. And literally, they were just like smashed it. They were packaged like if you were to package like fake stems, But unfortunately, all the stems were bruised. So then we needed 600 of them. So I had to reorder them. Same thing happened. So like that stuff happens. Then we ordered just regular white hydrangeas to spray paint them at this point because here it is like Thursday and we still don't have the product in, and it's no fault of ours, but
Right.
and the flowers literally fly to Atlanta from Miami, sit there, and I'm like, okay, come on, they're gonna make it. They're gonna make it. Fly back to Miami.
What?
Yes, yes, 17. And I'm like, oh my goodness, we didn't get them in until Friday. But it is what it is, at that point. But it's like things like that are totally out of your control. You can't do anything about it. And like, I used to really get all like stressed and freaked out because who has 600 pink hydrangeas, like no one does near you, like
Yeah.
especially here in like the wholesale houses only, they really want you to order through them. They don't really keep that much product stock. I
Right.
mean, they keep enough to do like, if you got like a casket spray that you needed to do, or like, like a somewhat smaller party, but like no one just has like, anyways, or like 500 red, like you just can't get it that quickly. But so like that kind of stuff, it really can like send me into a tailspin sometimes, but there's nothing you can do about it. But you just have to remain calm and pivot and figure that out. So, but it's just things like that are wild too, that are stressors. And then like, we've had like some wrecks in the cars, like
Oh
people have
no.
hit us on the way to a wedding. One time one of the vans got hit, and so we had to move all the flowers. And that was when I was doing multiple events in one day. And so some flowers got sent to the wrong wedding. And, I mean, things happen, that are outside of your control, that you just have to just roll with it somehow and just figure it out in the moment. But, things just, it's just kind of crazy. But those things that you don't know are coming. Those are what keep me up at night, because I'm like, see, it happened this week. So next week it will probably be, what our flowers will spontaneously combust somehow or something. I mean, like, that's where my mind goes after all this stuff that you don't have any, it's not like you could have controlled it happening to begin with. So
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, because I feel like a lot of times people think they're the only ones that these things happen to, or, like they get picked on, by the universe or whatever. But what I think is so funny is, I'll be talking with vendors when I'm buying certain things. And I know they might think I'm crazy because I ask them 2 or 3 times, you got this truck right? You got this quantity right? How many's in a box?
yeah.
And they're like, Scott, it's okay. And I'm like, listen, you don't understand. I have trust issues. And I'm just double checking. That's all.
I know it. I mean, oh yeah. I mean, it happened, especially like after COVID hit. I feel like more things spiraled out of control. Just like our local airport here in Memphis. I mean, it's an international airport, but the cargo terminal, like we got in, I don't remember, like 42 boxes a few Saturdays ago. And sometimes we'll pick up our flowers for the next week after the events, like after we're done setting up. But like, this is just an example. We get there and they're closed due to low staff, no employees. And I literally see my boxes sitting outside. So I'm like, so are these just gonna sit out in the July sun all day, like until Monday morning? Like what's going on? Thank goodness there was some angel that I went to baggage claim in the main airport, and some angel was able to tug them around for me. But I was just like, it's just things like that. You're like, how did we, like, this is an international airport cargo terminal and y'all are closed. I mean, everything. I mean, not just for flowers, but like lungs come through there. I'm in there all the time, and you see like body parts are coming through, and I'm like, what happens when like a body comes in? Like it's wild. It's
do,
wild. But
do they have coolers there?
they have coolers, but if the
Right.
place is shut down, they don't bring them into the garage, like into the terminal, like the cargo terminal area. It's just wild.
Yeah, that
I
would.
li- I literally saw the flowers sitting out, and I was like, okay, we got to do something, because this is a lot of money. And because that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, this is a lot of money, and who's going to pay me back for this? And I'm going to want to credit this week. and Delta Cargo is not going to pay me back that quick. I know they're not.
Oh no, of course not.
But
No.
anyways, we didn't even have to go there because some angel in the airport was able to help me out. Thank goodness. But
Oh, that's wonderful. That's really
Lord,
great.
but
Well, I always like to ask an advice question at the end of the episodes of, like, for our listeners. It could be something that maybe somebody shared with you that means a lot to you, or something you, from your years of doing what you do, that you'd like to share with them.
yeah. So the biggest advice is that I think that I live by and try to tell people too is whatever you go into in life, like, or whatever you can find ways to make money at. One, you should enjoy what you're doing. But the biggest thing is to grow into it. Don't just go into it. Just start small, get little points that you want to be at, and just get there, and then regroup, and then go to the next big point, and then just keep going from there, and just let it grow organically, versus just being like a big corporate person or someone and just making it all happen at one time. It's okay if you don't do it. You can literally just grow it. I'm only 30, and I've done this from high school, and just little at a time. Sure, I probably could have just jumped into it. I could have been at this point when I'm 25, maybe, but maybe not too. You never know. But this is the way that it works for me. And so anyway, so I don't know if it works for everyone, but that's my advice to young entrepreneurs out there.
Well, I love that because one thing is I feel like because you grew organically, like you just said, you you appreciate everything, you value everything and everybody, your coworkers, everybody, your family, everybody that's come alongside you along your journey, and whether they were where you had your booths and you were selling, those relationships. I mean, it's
Hmm.
it's an incredible
Yeah.
thing.
There's not one job at JME, John Mark Enterprises, that I have not done that someone is currently doing, and that I still will not jump in and do at any point that I need to do it. From everything. Like the other day, I was mopping the floors at the store. I mean, it doesn't matter. You never get away from that either. As the bigger you get or the more successful you get, I think the more humbler I don't know if humbler is a word, but the more you can stay true to like your roots and how you started, and just always remember like tomorrow you can be back where you started 10 years ago. I mean, nothing's secured. I mean, it really isn't. And if you have that attitude throughout everything, I think that it will take you farther than being, cocky or whatever. Um, it just works for me, and it works well, I feel like. So
Yeah, I agree. I hear that you're an early riser.
yeah. When I go to sleep, if I go to sleep, I will wake up early. But a lot of nights, sometimes it's not. I don't know if it's what it is, but I just have a lot of energy, and so yeah, I like to wake up pretty early. I used to work out a lot. I don't get to as much anymore, but we're hoping that I can get back to that because that is really good for your mental sanity and all the things. But so yeah, I like to get up early and start the day. It's kind of wild, but I guess or some people think it's wild. I don't think it's that wild, but you know,
Well, I think you get a lot done when you can start the day off early and get your
yeah.
mind in the right place. So,
Yeah. My favorite thing is to literally wake up and get to the store or the shop, wherever I'm working, the warehouse, whichever place I'm working that day, and be there like 3 hours before anyone even gets in there. Because you can
wow.
just be in your own space and do your own thing. And, if I want to blast music at the top of the speaker, I can, or whatever it is, and just do my thing. So that's kind of like my favorite part of the day, actually, is like that because it's so quiet. There's not a bunch of people asking different things, and we're not like doing different things, but which I love that part of the day too. But just that early morning, I can pray. I'm a Christian, so I can talk to Jesus during that time and just get the day off going straight. But
That's awesome. That's great. Well, it's amazing how much you can get done too when, like you just said, when you don't have all the little interruptions. And then the great thing is when you do that, it's like when you have those people that then start kind of, intermingling into your day, you can give them your undivided attention because you've already done this and that, and you have all your
yes.
ducks in the row. So
Yes, yes. And I'm real big on lists. So like in the mornings, I like to make lists. I know who's coming in, and so I'll write their name on the whiteboard and then leave a list of things that I think that should get done that day or whatever. So
that's awesome. Well, John Mark, thank you so much for being on the Flower Podcast.
no problem, no problem. I hope it was good.